All right, all right. How's it going, everybody? It's been a great morning so far. I have some good news. I am going to stop being the host. I'm certain you guys are probably tired of just seeing me pop in. I've got a better host for you guys to take care of the second half of our show. We have Dominic Artis, if you're in the States, Dominic Artis, if you're overseas, who's going to take over the hosting duties here for us. We have some great stuff here for the second half. But before we just go into the next person, I want to give Dominic the floor to be able to share more about him and take it from there. So we appreciate you all being here. Dominic, you there?
Yeah, man. How's it going? Appreciate it, Evan. Everyone, I hope you guys are doing well. They say Evan rocked out and killed it earlier this morning with the hosting. So here to hopefully provide some energy and build on top of that. My name is Dominic Artis, founder and CEO of The Act House. We're a global platform for team formation and startup creation. In essence, we help founders find their founder DNA, form better teams, and accelerate their dreams through our accelerator programs. I'm calling in from Tulsa, Oklahoma, the home of Greenwood, where our 6-month accelerator is hosted here right in Tulsa. If you guys are looking forward to applying, our next cohort is opening up, I think, next week, October 25th. Applications go live. You can check more out at acttulsa.com or act.house. We have a very, very, very dope fireside chat that's coming up with the good CEO of LeaseQuery, George Azih, and then also my good friend Boris. I don't know if they'll have any fire in the background. They may, who knows? But just kind of imagine yourself at a fireside chat, having a good time and having some good conversation. Again, have your notepad out. Make sure you write down those gems. Don't forget the hashtag UAAT3 on Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere you go. And let's get into it. So can I welcome George and Boris to the stage? Awesome, guys.
Dominic, thank you for having us, my man.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me. I'll talk to you guys later, all right?
Yep. George Azih, man, I'm finally with the man of the hour. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
Excellent. I am just grateful that you were open to joining us and spending some time with us. And, my greatest fun fact over the last month, I'm still geeking out of this, is that you're first cousins with Hop Stops, Chinadu and Cheru.
Chinadu and Cheru, yes, that's my cousin. His mom and my mom are sisters.
That just blew my mind, man. You guys are like two of the top Black technologists in the country.
I definitely wouldn't say that. Definitely would not say that. There's
amazing family though. You guys, as cousins, you guys have done a lot. So we have to give credit where credit's due, and you're representing our community exceptionally well. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, thank you for your kind words. Appreciate it.
Hey George, let's hop straight into it, man. I can't get over it. Both of you guys are pretty unassuming too, but many people see your $40 million plus funding, most of which came from Goldman Sachs, and I remember someone saying, "Wow, this guy's an overnight success. Where'd he come from?" And I think you take that comment with the little salt. Do you like to talk about that and talk? If you want to introduce yourself and introduce LeaseQuery, we could kick off with that as well.
Sure. So once again, thank you so much for having me. I love doing these fireside chats primarily because it gives me an opportunity to give back especially to our community, right? And help whenever I can. So thanks for having me and giving me the platform. So in order to really understand LeaseQuery, first of all, LeaseQuery started because I was solving a problem that I had. Right, I was working at a company in Atlanta, and the company changed auditors, and when they changed auditors from PwC to EY. EY said, we're going to take a deeper dive into the financials, and one of the areas they looked at were leases because this was a first-time audit for them. And they tested 10 of the leases, and 10 out of 10 of them were wrong. They tested another 10, and 10 out of 10 of them were wrong. So at this point, we're batting, like way below the Mendoza line, right? And so they essentially, the chief accounting officer tasked me with teaching the controllers, because this was a global corporation, so each location had a controller, and she tasked me with teaching the controllers how to account for leases. So I get together, I'm putting up a PowerPoint presentation, and then I was like, you know what, I'm a big show me rather than tell me. So I said, let me just build an Excel spreadsheet. I'm pretty good with Excel, right? Most accountants are, right? So I was like, let me just build an Excel spreadsheet that shows them the accounting, because this is pretty straightforward accounting. As I'm building it, I'm realizing, well, there has to be software that does this. So let me look at the marketplace and see what software actually solves this problem, and then I'll just recommend that we use software, and that'll solve the problem, because software always works. So I looked around for software, and I realized that nothing existed. There was lease management software, which is more like lease administration. It'll give you alerts, but none of them solved the true accounting problem, which is what we faced. And so I'm sitting there going, well, listen, my role at that company was actually technical accounting and accounting research. So essentially what that meant is I had to look at the future, essentially, right? What is the EITF, the Emerging Issues Task Force? What are they looking at? What are they trying to change, right? So that the company would get its preferred accounting treatment. So in that role, I knew that the rules for leases were changing. So it was like the perfect storm, right? Okay, the rules are going to change to become more complex. Here we are, we're a $6 billion company, and we're getting it wrong. And it's simple today, right? So when the rules do change, and there's nothing there today, when the rules do change, it'll be a big problem. So why not exploit that marketplace? And that's what we did. So that was the origin, the genesis for LeaseQuery. Now, in terms of timing, yes, people always think we're an overnight success, but we are not. I decided to start this company in March 2010. Right, in March 2010, that was the date. So just to give you a mental timeline, March 2010 was when I decided to start the company. The first line of code was written in September 2011. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
A good 18 months. Right. So what was I doing in that time frame? I was literally writing requirements. Right. Everyone always talks about the fact that I'm a non-technical founder, right? Which means I don't write code. And everyone always thinks that's a disadvantage. I actually think it's a major advantage, right? If you're solving a problem, your problem, right? A problem that you face, you don't need to figure out who your ICP is, right? Your ideal customer profile.
Right.
You already know who that is. It's you, right? And never underestimate that, right? The power in that. So in those 18 months, I was writing literally requirements, step 1, step 2, step 3. Here's what the software should do. Here's what what should happen when you log in. And then I gave it to a designer, and the designer gave me the PSDs, right? The PSDs, essentially the wireframe. Here's what it looks like. And finally, I found a programmer, a company out of India, to actually write the code. So the point is, the programmer was way low on the totem pole, right? It starts with a BA, which is you. Which was me as the founder, and then the designer, UI UX, and then you go to the programmer. So that happened in September 2011, and so we didn't receive our first check until December 2013.
Okay, so now we're in December 2013. That's when you received your first check. The other thing, I don't want to cut you off because you're going to go into this, but for all you founders out there, particularly some of you that are thinking about starting and you're working full time right now, you're sitting on the line, or some of you who have started, the other interesting story with George is how he went about planning for becoming an entrepreneur, right? And just working. And I had a talk with one of my investors in my company in Austin, Texas. And she was like, this was yesterday, as a matter of fact. She goes, I don't know why a lot of Black founders think it's difficult to raise money. Like, how could you always think that and live with that burden? Why don't you just go out and do it? And I go, well, interestingly enough, I spoke to a founder who says you just have to be self-aware of what you're getting into and plan accordingly. And that insight came from you. So if you want to talk about like some of the meticulous planning you've done, and the insight you had into what you were going to need to start this company and how you went about doing it, I think that would be very valuable to our viewers here.
Sure, absolutely. So as I said, I was working at a company in Atlanta here, and I decided to start the company in March 2010. So the first thing I did in March 2010, when I said, okay, I'm going to do this, was I reduced my burn. Right. So I stopped drinking Starbucks. I literally just reduced my personal burn rate. I literally, I'm an accountant, right? So I can be pretty meticulous when it comes to numbers, right? So my burn rate was literally $3,000 a month, right? So $36,000 a year after tax, right? So that was all I needed to survive, right? And another thing I did was I literally maxed out my 401k. And what that means is I was putting in the max I could into my 401k. So I did that for 18 months, right? And the idea was I would borrow from my 401k. So when it came time to send a check to the designer, the UI UX person, and the programmers, right? I literally just borrowed from my 401k. By the way, this is terrible financial advice.
Right? My financial advisor would be like, no. But I gotta tell you, sometimes, George, like, being an entrepreneur isn't easy, and it's hard. And sometimes you just got to do what other people aren't willing to do. And, sometimes other people can't do that, or they're not willing. In this case, I think you were betting on this idea, your ability and the ability of your team that you were going to build out. And you did go ahead and do it. And one more thing, as you're progressing here, what type of car did you decide to drive? Because I think you're in Atlanta, so you still had to get around, right?
I still own the Toyota Camry that I bought, a 2004 Toyota Camry, right? It's funny whenever I see entrepreneurs now and they're driving, like Mercedes or BMWs. Once again, I'm an accountant, right? So I was very meticulous with money. I literally look and I'm like, it's not even the fact that, okay, it's not even the car note that's the delta, right? The difference. It's not the car note. Sure. A Toyota Camry is probably $200 a month, versus a BMW, which could be $400 a month. It's not even that $200 delta. It's the fact that, hey, if you change your tires on the BMW versus a Toyota, if you change your oil, the oil change on a BMW versus a Toyota, the gas, right? One of them takes premium, the other takes the lower. So it's all the little amounts, and I'll tell you a very specific story, right? A very specific story. And when I was working, I started the company out of Starbucks, right? And then eventually when we got like 4 people, we wanted to get like a WeWork location, right? And there's a place in Atlanta called Roam, ROAM, that costs $99, right? And there was a WeWork in Atlanta that costs $149, right? They were both in the same location, literally both in Buckhead, right? At the time, WeWork hadn't expanded. This was like 4 years ago. So I go in and the parking was $5 a day, right? For this location. However, the Roam people would give you a ticket where you don't have to pay for parking. WeWork did not. So I go into WeWork and I see all these people in there. I just wanted to see why people are choosing WeWork. And they're all, there's free beer and there's free coffee. Those are the only benefits. But I did the math and I'm sitting there and I'm like, these guys are starting companies and they're already starting off making a wrong financial decision, right? Like anybody that's choosing WeWork over Roam I'm like, what other wrong decisions are you making? Right? Financially, right? Because this is an easy one.
It's an easy one. It adds up.
Easy. This is, so the point I'm trying to make, guys, is be very meticulous about your spending, right? A lot of times it's hard for us as Black folk to get funding. When and this is another thing I hate, right? And no offense, I'm sure you guys are probably doing one. All these startup battles and demo days and all this, I hate those, right? I did participate in one, and it took me hours to prepare. I'm pretty meticulous when it comes to preparation because I want to be, a good public speaker because I'm doing I'm working on lease accounting. That's the most boring thing on the planet, right? So I have to energize, whatever, whenever I was presenting. So I spent hours on this presentation. I come in and I give it, and the panel of judges are like, like asking me questions that showed me they had absolutely no
No
clue
idea
what I
what
was
you're
doing.
talking about.
And right there and then I was like, this is a complete and utter waste of my time. I will never do it again. The point I'm trying to make, guys, is whenever like, there's one pitch that you need to win, one pitch you need to master, and that's the pitch to a paying customer. That's it, right? All these startup battles and all this, like these demo days and contests are literally a vanity exercise, right? When you win that, you're like, oh, okay, I won. It's cool. They'll give you $5 grand, 10 grand, $100,000. Guys, $100,000, sure, that's nice. And sure, it's a lifeline. It could be a lifeline. But imagine if you spent that time actually getting $100,000 from a paying customer, because that's ARR, right?
Yeah,
I
hear that.
That's recurring, right? So you need to figure out, I always say being an entrepreneur is literally an exercise in resource allocation, right? You're always allocating resources, be it your time, be it your money, be it your people, right? So starting that early, right? And thinking about, okay, how do I allocate my resources, my time, my money effectively, right? How do I figure out risk? That's really the job of an entrepreneur. That's really what you're doing.
So let's get into this a little bit more, and let's firm up the timeline now. So March 2010, you decided to start the business. You drastically cut down all your expenses. By September 2011, you were writing the requirements for UX, UI, and then a few months later, you got your developer to start coding. You're working out of Starbucks. You're working out of Rumi, not WeWork. So at what point did the business start to take off, and did you start to receive some extra income? And what did you do about your full-time job?
Oh, so I did not quit my full-time job until June 2015.
Okay.
Right. By then I had at that point in June 2015, I remember the very first thing I did, that was when I also hired our first employee, our first full-time employee, Russell Bowles, I literally just saw him right outside my office. And so he was employee number one. And I distinctly recall when I gave him his offer letter and told him, okay, I'm going to be paying, it was $50,000. And that night I couldn't sleep. Because, and the reason was because our year-to-date, life-to-date income was like 40K at that point. So I'm like, how am I going to pay this guy $50,000? Like literally, I literally couldn't sleep. And then I realized, well, at the time we were paying twice a month, right? On the 1st and on the 15th. And I said, well, $50,000, divide that by 24. Well, hell, that's like $2,500, every other, twice a month. I'm like, I could do that. And that was when I slept. That was the time I could sleep. Literally, I'm telling you, like, it bared on me. So that I was like, effectively I could use my salary to pay that. Right.
Right.
At the time, I tell people this, I never broke $100,000 working in corporate America. Right. The most I made in corporate America was $88,000. That was it. When I left my job when I left my job, that's how much I was making. However, as I said, my burn rate was pretty low. And we had money coming in because we had some clients, about $30,000 in ARR at that point, and then, when Russell came aboard, that was ironically, that was one of the best decisions that I made. And I can't even claim credit for making it. It's just, I was good friends with Russell's dad. And he was like, listen, this is a smart kid. He'll be able to help you. I know you're building this company. And I always say your first two people in a company are the most critical people, right? Like, as you choose people to hire or people they need to be they need to be so good that, you know, if you can think of them as animals, right? That's I read somewhere. You need to think of them as animals. Your first salesperson needs to be an animal. Chris was an animal, right? I would feel bad for the people on the other line when Chris was negotiating with them, right? So I mean, and these are people you need, right? Because you can't do it yourself. So Russell and Sherry was the second person I hired. Mistakes would hurt them. Like they keep, you know, like any errors in this, because at that point you're doing everything. They're reviewing code, not reviewing code, but reviewing, you know, testing for bugs, right? They're onboarding clients. They're doing everything. Because of Russell and Sherry, I could go sell, right? Get a client and literally know that they were in good hands with Russell and Sherry, right? I didn't have to worry about onboarding. So I could focus my time on selling until I got a true salesperson, i.e. Chris, you know, until Chris came aboard, right?
Right.
I could focus on selling as opposed to worrying about onboarding and you know, implementations.
That was a good story to date in terms of bringing us up to speed on how you plan to get started. At you know, so you were basically you know, working for 4 years without like income coming into, you know, into the company. Got your first check in 2013, right? $500.
We received it in 2014. The check was dated 12. It's funny. I mean, I remember all this crap. 12/13/13. That was the check. That was when the date. That was when the check was dated. I still have it to this day, right? I have it framed. I mobile deposited it, you know, and that way I could keep the actual check. But yes, it's framed in my kitchen right now. It used to be my office, but you know, COVID.
And tell me something, man, because like, you know, there is some risk taking in entrepreneurship. Where did you get the confidence from to march forward, and why were you so hopeful that your business would work out or get funded?
So this is where I had an what do they call it, an advantage, right? I mean, I was solving my problem. I knew the boards were working on this, so I knew it was going to happen, right? I mean, I received emails upon emails from people saying, George, you're betting your entire career on the government making a change, right? And I did. You know, I truly knew that this was going to be a huge problem. And Brendan, the first programmer that I recruited to come with me, I told him, I'm like, listen, at worst, this will be a family style business, and we're going to be making 200 grand a year, at worst, you know. And he was like, yeah, I can live with that, you know.
And then as you were thinking through what type of business this was, you also took me through this model that you have in your head with the X and the Y axis in terms of types of business that are set up to make money. And
Yes.
you have a special place in your heart for enterprise businesses. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could draw it because it's hard to explain. But if you think about businesses, right, and you look at your x-axis, right? I like to say there's on the bottom. I'm drawing it now, and I'll show you. There's simple, and then there's complex. My handwriting's terrible, but if you can see that, simple at the bottom.
Yep.
And then complex up here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the y-axis. On the x-axis, you have boring, and you have sexy, right? So
Yep.
Here you have simple, complex, boring, and sexy,
Yep.
right? So in this quadrant of boring and simple, those are things like the boring and simple quadrant right here. Boring and simple, those are things like, you know, realtor, right? Car salesman, right? These are just boring. I mean, in that quadrant, those are things that are simple, easy to get to, and people do it, right? So
it's going to be hard to make money doing that.
It's going to be hard to make money doing that because everyone
maybe
can get in, right?
Yeah.
Everyone can be a realtor. Everyone can sell cars, right? And then in the simple but sexy quadrant, you have things like athletes, right? Music, right? It's simple, but it's sexy, right? In the complex and sexy quadrant, right? So in the complex and sexy quadrant,
yeah,
right? Those are things, this quadrant right here, those are things like crypto, AI, RPI, like RPA, right? That's complex and sexy.
Right.
Now, the real money makers are right here. Complex and boring. Those are
complex and boring quadrant.
Complex and boring. Those are companies like DocuSign. DocuSign exists to make it easy to sign documents. Boring, but a very complex problem, right? That's what companies like Calendly, based out of here in Atlanta. Hey, we schedule meetings. Boring, but complex. That's LeaseQuery. LeaseQuery. Lease accounting itself is pretty boring. Add leases on top of that, and you've got a doozer, right?
Yeah.
People are falling asleep, So the beautiful thing about that area, the complex but boring, is that because it's boring, a lot of people aren't doing it. But also most of those companies are B2B. And it's a lot easier to sell B2B than it is B2C. Why? Because the people making those decisions in B2B companies are not custodians of their own money. It's not their own money they're spending, right? It's the company's money. And that's a lot easier to pry and justify those resources, right? So for all of you that have businesses, just think about where you land in this quadrant, right? Think about what it is, what type of business is it? There's a company that I came close to investing in, and they have software for realtors, right? And I'm like, wow, this is huge. It's huge, TAM. How many realtors? Da, 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 da. And then, I'm going through and asking questions, and then I'm like, okay, what's your churn? And their churn was ridiculously high. Why? Because realtors, boring, simple, right?
Yeah.
A lot of realtors get in and they do it for a year and a half. A lot of them are just doing it part-time. So how can they justify, spending money? Once again, it's their own money. Most of the realtors, it's not the company's money, it's their own money, right? Because most brokers are, they're independent contractors, right? So think about where you stand in this quadrant and make your decisions accordingly. If you're in the complex and sexy and crypto and AI, you're going to have to raise tons of money, right? Because it's sexy. A lot of people are doing it. It's complex, right? So you're going to have to raise a ton of money. Right?
Man, love that insight. And we see everyone typing in here. That was great insight. And if we step back a little bit and then talk about, you're a very confident guy, clearly successful, but did you ever have moments of doubt? Like, is this thing gonna happen? Did you like go to sleep? Did you have one of those sleepless nights? Like, oh man, I just gave up my career, and the world around me, particularly in this accounting software space, is taking off. I don't know if it's gonna work. You gave this one analogy of Michael Phelps, and at some point you came to the realization of what you needed to do to move forward. But would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, anyone who doesn't have imposter syndrome, anyone who says they don't, any CEO who tells you they don't have imposter syndrome is either not being honest or is a complete, what's the word? Is a narcissist, right? Like everyone has imposter syndrome. You asked me a lot of questions in there. First of all, when I quit my job, I was legit depressed, right? For about a week, about 2 weeks, I had a friend that just, quit his job to run his company full time. And, I sent him a message telling him, listen, your ego may not let you admit this, but I know what I went through when the day I quit, right? I'm leaving a comfortable job. And, people always say the biggest drug on the planet the most addictive thing on the planet is a well-paying job, right?
Yeah.
That's the most addictive thing on the planet. It's very difficult to leave a well-paying job to go do something else and kill what you eat, right? Or eat what you kill, right?
Right.
So that's very challenging. And the good news for me, as I said, I was only making $88,000, so it wasn't a well-paying job by any means, right? So it was easy for me to leave that and say, okay, I'm out of here, right? But I still experienced some serious, depression and, self-doubt is in, what if this doesn't work out? And then I realized, well, George, you're only making $88,000. You can easily go back and make $88,000.
You got some accounting skills. You got some very specialized esoteric skills. Anyone will be willing to drop a $75,000, $80,000 check on you. Yeah,
absolutely. That's the honest truth. But the thing is, that's the truth for almost every entrepreneur out there, right? Whenever you decide to leave corporate America to chase your own dreams, right? It is you can always go back. So don't think about it. You can always go back, right? Yeah. Now I will say one of the mistakes I made was I truly did not leave I left too late, right? I jumped at this full time too late. I really feel like I should have done it probably 6 months earlier. Don't do it too early, but eventually do it, right? When you're not all in, right? And you're doing one job, your day job, and you're doing, your side hustle, and you're not all in either, technically, then I feel like that's like, having one leg in hot water and having one leg in cold water and trying to convince yourself that your body's warm, right? That's just not the way it works, yeah. Right? You gotta make a bet, right? Don't do it too early. As I said, make sure you have a cushion and you have a plan, but do it, go all in.
Yeah. Did anything make you feel anxious? Were you feeling overwhelmed by competition, particularly as an early stage company?
So I'll tell you this, right? I always say, and Joe, our COO, always says this: every good entrepreneur has to be paranoid, right? You have to have a healthy paranoia. You want to make your product obsolete, right? You should always be thinking of ways to make your product obsolete, because that's what your competitors are trying to do to you, right? I will never forget, I had a meeting with one of my competitors, and I think I told you the story, right? I met him for breakfast. I show up and, I'm wearing jeans and flip-flops and a t-shirt, and I could, the moment I saw him, and he asked for the meeting, by the way, right? So I didn't even understand what this was about. I could see the
look of
contempt, right? Exactly. The disdain, like, this guy, really? Anyway, so we have breakfast, and I happen to mention, I'm like, you know what? In our space, remember I said there's lease accounting and there's lease management.
Yeah, right? Two different types of software.
Two different things. So I keep on to mention casually, like, no one in this space, no one in our space has actually created a product that actually does both excellently well, right? Like, you guys are good at lease management. We're great at lease accounting. There's no company out there that's created the perfect model. And he goes, oh, no, we have, And I'm like, no, you haven't. He's like, no, we have.
So his company, industry-leading company, does both
publicly
lease management software and both lease accounting software. He's convinced that he does them both exceptionally well.
He's convinced he does them both. He is like, we do them both well. What this gentleman did not know was literally my next meeting that day was with a client of his that was leaving him to come to us.
Yeah.
That's what this gentleman had no idea.
What was the point of the meeting then? He just brought you in there to say there's no need for your company? Was he trying to psych you out to sell to him? What
I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those old school people. And so, but the lesson I learned from that was, you can't eat your own dog food. I mean, I say you should eat your own dog food, but I'm sorry, you can't drink your own Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Right. You can't. I mean, the fact that he believes that he's the best and he has the best product means that he's not willing to perfect it. Right. You can't fill a cup that's already full. You can't
Right.
add more water to a cup that's already full, right? Like you can't do it. So because he truly believes that his product is superior and the best, he's not thinking about ways to improve it. I mean, he is telling me that it's the best, yet the next meeting is with a client of his. So rather than thinking of ways to satisfy that client, how do I make my product better? How do I make sure I reduce churn? He thinks his product is great, right? Ironically, I actually hired his VP of sales. Literally, I mean, like, I kid you not.
He has the roster, man. That's a great move.
I mean, all the way down. But that's what happens at big companies, right?
So
That's why insurgents can win.
So yes, with complacency, definitely. At what point did you? I don't want to say stop becoming the insurgent, but at what point did you start making a decent amount of revenue and have the competition start looking at you differently?
Well, I mean, we are the industry leaders now by far. Our close rates are, I think, I don't know if I'll get this accurately, but the last meeting we had, I believe we're at 40 to 50%, right? In terms of our close one. So what does that tell you, right? We are winning 50% for every 10 deals. We're winning 5, and our competitors are struggling for the scraps, right? So what? I mean, I want us to get to 80. I want us to get to 80 deals, right?
Poor
80
sales team
wins, because that's what we were at when I was running, when I was selling, right? Literally 80% close, right? Now I'll say this. I say that to say this. Even though once again I feel we're still not the best because we're still losing deals, right? We're still losing 50% of our deals, right? Even though we're winning 50%, why are we losing those deals? We have to really focus on making our product better, making our sales product better. Everyone always talks about how do you double next year? Because I mean, we've had 100% growth. We've had 1,000% growth, right? We went from 1.3 million to 8.7 million in 1 year, and everything broke. Everything broke.
Whoa. Go over that scaling number. When did you bring in the 1.7 million? What year was that?
So in 2017, we made 1.3 million. In 2018, we made 8.7 million. So I mean, just think about that. That's normally 3 years of growth for a regular company, and we did it in 1 year. And as I said, everything broke.
Everything broke. I think there are a bunch of developers in here and innovators and entrepreneurs that know what that feels like. So it's good to hear you talk about it and keep it real and be like, our system just broke. It didn't work.
Listen, I'm telling you, implementation and engineering were working till 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday for about 3 months, working from 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then Fridays they could leave at regular 5 p.m. And we were catering dinner in the office every night. And I'm a big believer in, at the time, I'm a big believer. I can't ask you to do that which I'm not willing to do. So I was staying in there with them until those, for those late hours.
How big was your team at that point?
I think we were probably 50 people for the whole company. And then actually maybe more like 70 people, right? About 20 in engineering and 10 in implementation. So about 30 people were staying, that late. I think those are the numbers then. I mean, this was 2018, right? So a while back. But anyway, the one thing I'm really proud of is almost every single person that was, especially in our engineering team, that was there during that time is still with us today. They did not quit.
And why do you think they were so loyal to you and or willing to put in the time? Did they have a sense of ownership over the platform?
I truly believe the best businesses are built on missions, right? You have to have a true mission. That's not just about money, right? That's about, a true mission. And our mission is to make accountants' lives easier using software. If you literally just boil it down, make accountants' lives easier using software. So we are accountants. We see ourselves as accountants. In every department in this company, there's an accountant, right? Accountants are usually in every company. Think about your accountants. They're the red-haired stepchild. They're the ones that are using outdated software. We have clients that are still using IE10. IE10, Internet Explorer 8. There's people you still using Internet Explorer 8 because some obtuse accounting product needs
only runs on it.
Only runs on it, right? And so they're still using that, right? So we're always the ignored group, and I hated it, right? They would say, "Hey, we want financials by, we want to close our books, on day 5," but yet we don't have the resources to do it, right? So that was very frustrating. So that's the mission. And I always tell our people, right, our software is not critical until it is.
Right.
If our clients choose our software and it doesn't work, people lose their jobs.
Right.
It's not the same for a lot of other software, right? If a controller picks LeaseQuery and LeaseQuery just does not work, that controller is probably going to get fired. Right? Yeah. Because no one gets fired for hiring IBM, right? We're the insurgents. So we have to be perfect, right? And we tell them this, I try to promote this all the time. Like our software needs to work. It absolutely has to work, right? So that mission, right? I mean, every engineer that comes here says this is the most complex software they've ever worked on. Every single one, right? So I mean, that's that mission and that pride, too, because I mean, we are the best, but I love a slogan by Philips, right? Philips, the electronics company, used to have a slogan back in the day that said, Philips, right? Just a little better, but better. Right? Just a little better, but better. Right?
We have
that incremental increase is something that that mindset. We got to get better. We got to get better. And getting better. So I was about to say this. Getting better is not. So if I say, hey, we want to double our sale, we want to increase, grow by 100%, right? Most companies will say, oh, wait a minute. That means we have to double sales. No, not really. If you increase your top of funnel by 5% and increase your conversion rates by 5%. And increase reduce your churn by 5%. I mean, all those incremental little things
add up
and gets you there. Right.
So we have a couple more minutes. There's some other pieces of nuggets that you had that I want other people to see, and this was dealing with imposter syndrome a little bit. You were talking about things like not having a lack of awareness, and you spoke about how you used to dress. Like most of the pictures I find, you're in suits and all that stuff. Now you dress a little differently, and even down to how you picked your investor. All that stuff had to do with what's impacting us as Black men and how we think we're being perceived. Could you just talk about that?
Well, I mean, I always say, don't drink your Kool-Aid, but eat your dog food.
Right.
And what that means is, as I said, don't drink the Kool-Aid, right? Obviously, you know what that means. But eat your own dog food. What that means is see the world through the eyes of your customer. You must see the world through the eyes of your customer. And once you start to do that, it changes everything, right? Everyone at LeaseQuery, I mean, except for some marketing people because they're weird. I'm kidding. But everyone at LeaseQuery, no one uses Macs. No one. Right? Except, as I said, some marketing people and some programmers. No one uses Macs. We all are a Windows shop, right? Why? Because 99.9% of our clients are Windows clients.
Right.
99.9. We don't have a mobile app. Why? Because accountants, you will never find an accountant working on a tablet or working on their phone. It just does not. That's not how accountants work, right? 99.9% of our traffic comes from comes from people on their laptops or on the computers, on desktops, right? Why did we go with Goldman as a partner? You got to understand, we are selling to CFOs, controllers, financial reporting managers, SEC reporting managers, compliance officers. These are the most conservative people on the planet. None of them have heard of Sequoia. None of them have heard of Andreessen Horowitz. None of them have heard of, None of them have heard of all these things, but they've heard of Goldman. They've all heard of Goldman Sachs. So when you say so seeing the world through them, when we come and we say, hey, we are backed by Goldman Sachs, and they're not in the business of picking losers, right? That's another, that's another quiver in our another arrow in our quiver, right? When we say we hire accountants, right? We have every department, what you guys call a sales engineer, we have accountants running demos. We have accountants in implementation. We have accountants in QA. We have accountants in our product, in our product team. We have accountants. We have an accountant in marketing that literally writes our blogs. We literally have an accountant in our marketing department, right?
Yeah. Awesome. And just last thing about Goldman. And the thing with
I'm
Goldman,
sorry. You said one thing about dressing, right? I'm
Yes.
sorry. This you talk about imposter syndrome. Once
Yes.
again, we're selling to all these conservative people, right? And if you go to our
and
website,
your title your title is CEO
my
in the
title,
early
exactly.
days. Yes.
Exactly. At the time, I was literally director of operations on LinkedIn. I did not change my title on LinkedIn to say founder CEO until January 2017, right? Because I was still running demos and doing all these things, right? And frankly, it's funny, it ended up being good for me, right? Because once again, these are real conservative people. They'll be like, why is the CEO running demos? Right? Like, so I was always like, oh, now I'm director of operations. It also helped me in negotiation, right? I remember one of our clients the CFO came back and he's like, George, can you just go to your superiors and ask them, can I get, a 20% discount? I was like, man, all right, I got you. I went back to my hotel room, answered emails, watched a little History Channel, called him back, 2 hours later. And I was like, listen, man, I really went to bat for you. But, my guys said there's absolutely no way. My bosses said there's no way that they can do that. So, this is just what it's going to be. I made somebody else the foil, right? The bad guy, right? So you have to think, once again, you have to see the world through your clients, right? Through your clients' eyes. If they knew I will tell you another story. A big thing I do now is I go and I talk to all our clients, right? And get feedback from them. How are things going? What other problem can we be solving from you? And this was our first six-figure check, right? It was $250,000, right? Huge company. And I was talking to them, and we were reminiscing about when I came and sold them, right? It was me and Russell, for employee number one. We came in there and we were talking about how we chose them, and these guys, like matter of fact, just straight face, they were like, yeah, we didn't know you guys were that small then. If not, we definitely would not have chosen you.
So if you had that CEO title, they would have been like, yeah, you're not the right company.
I would walk out of the room. Might as well have walked out of the room.
Yeah.
And that's when I was dressing. Once again, I was dressing to the T. Literally, you would never see me anywhere without a suit on. And that's why if you look at our website, it's all of us are dressed up in formal. Because we're selling to accountants, right? I mean, so my point is, once you start to see the world through their eyes, you start to, it's little things, right? They all add up. So anyway.
Sosa is asking, how did you get investors to cut the check? So everyone's happy about Goldman, but from what I understand, there were other investors out there that were interested. Why were they interested? And why didn't you take other investor money if Goldman wasn't or maybe you should talk about that. I'll let you address it.
Well, so once again, I'm an accountant, right? Mm-hmm. And if cash is king, right? Mm-hmm. Cash is king. So we obviously went through that phase where we sell, we get a deal, we don't see a check for 90 days, right? We just don't get money in for 90 days, and it was a struggle, at some point where we had very low cash reserves. And then Chris, our CRO, came up and said, you know what, we're going to start charging people and telling them that we're going to pay 3 years up front.
That's it, guys. Get that money. Get the money to come in. You got to make these tough decisions. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah. So we started, we said, listen, you don't want to go through this requisitions process again. You don't want to go through redlining and legal, we want to be a true partner here, right? That's why we're asking for 3 years up front. That it also reduces churn. we have some clients that pay us 1 year, 2 years, but our standard is 3 years up front. So imagine the cash that we're getting in, right? So we had a lot of money coming in, and so we didn't need outside funding, right? We really didn't need it. But then so obviously the obvious question is, then why did you take funding at some point? And I would distinctly recall in December 2018, Chris calls me with this crazy idea, and I was like, I don't know if we want to do that. And I recognized really quickly that before we were doing anything, we were being aggressive, right? And then now that we have something to protect, I mean, we're being aggressive because we had nothing, right? Now we have something, this thing to protect. And so we started playing prevent defense. I mean, if you think about the story of the Falcons, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I live in Atlanta, right? Just think about what happened during the Super Bowl. I mean, this just always happens in Atlanta, right? Like even the Georgia Bulldogs, which is my alma mater, right? Like we start off with so much hope, so much promise, and then we stop doing the things that got us there in the first place, and we start playing prevent defense. And I realized we were doing that, and so I said, okay, let's raise some money so we don't have to worry about that, right? We just go balls to the wall. And that's why we ended up.
And then just to to demonstrate what Black tech entrepreneurs could do, how many checks did you get, or how many offers from VCs?
We got 23. We talked to 26 people, and I believe we got 23 term sheets.
Amazing. Everyone, George Azih, founder, CEO, brilliant Black man of LeaseQuery. Thank you for sharing your story. It was exceptionally inspirational. I don't know if you saw the chat, but I'm gonna love to replay this piece later. Thank you so much for spending some time. Hopefully you can stick around and take a look at some of the companies that'll be pitching a little later on today for a pitch event. I know you're not a big fan, but we love sharing everyone's stories and uncovering. I think you're going to see some interesting new companies that are on their way up.
Absolutely, sure thing. I'm actually in the office today, and we've got a bunch of people here, so I'll be in and out. But thank you so much. Thanks for having me,
Mr. Z. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Have a nice day.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, that was super fantastic. Boris, man, you crushed the fireside. I thought that was fantastic, and George's gems were just amazing. Hopefully, you guys were taking some time and writing down some nuggets in the chat. If you can, drop 1 or 2 gems that was pretty helpful to you. Let's kind of get some conversation moving in the chat, and we'll kind of go ahead and collect a lot of those, share them out at the end. But definitely enjoyed that conversation, man. Big props to George and Boris for that one. I want to just kind of share with you guys some things that are coming up next. If you haven't already, head over to the expo area to snap a selfie in our photo booth and shop some Black Uniform Ambition swag in the marketplace. Please get over there and make that happen. Taking a selfie is pretty easy. All it requires is you just kind of holding your phone like this. And then also, too, if you want to go ahead and purchase some swag, definitely keep that Black Unicorn Ambition swag on you as you go forward. Up next, we have some networking, investor office hours, and some amazing breakout sessions. But I want to kind of read out some of the breakout sessions for you guys so you can know where you want to go. So we have with Gregory Coleman, finding product market fit, which is so important. There's a very interesting report by CB Insights that listed, hey, top 20 reasons why entrepreneurs fail. The first was money, the second was product market fit, and the third was team. So you definitely want to go over there and chime in with Gregory and get situated on finding product market fit. The next one is the Founders Financial Journey presented by Intuit with Javante Ham and Damian Wright. I think that's going to be pretty exciting. So looking forward to that one as well. And then the other third session that we have is the TTS breakout session, Making Nationwide Impact, Tech Careers in Government with Patrick Kigonga. Please forgive me if I mess up your name. Natasha Banskopal, and then Brandy Thomas and Nathaniel Price. I think that's going to be pretty interesting. My first tech startup was in the space of civic tech back in 2012. GovTech has definitely changed, becoming more amenable to the people, thinking about the user experience as a human experience, as a citizen experience. So be sure to go check that out. If you apply for investor office hours, check your email. Please check the spam folder, check your email for the calendar invite to join your session. And we'll be back here on stage at roughly about 1:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Truly appreciate it. You guys are great. Again, keep it going in the chat, and we'll talk to you all soon.